On today's show, is a CP3 reunion in the cards for the Clippers? Could that potentially happen, and would it be beneficial for the team? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 years on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, in 3 years, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get us up to 8,000 subscribers, and you can listen wherever you get your podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a CP3 reunion. Would I be down for it? Would it benefit the team? What are the cons? And what are the reasons not to do it? Let's take a look at the roster. Now, CP3 played this last season with the San Antonio Spurs. This was his year 20 season. He came off the bench in year 19 with the Golden State Warriors as a Clipper fan, who obviously we got Chris Paul tied for the longest tenure he's had with any team. 6 years with the New Orleans Hornets not Pelicans, he was the Hornets. 6 years with the Hornets, 6 years with us with Lob City. And then he spent 2 years with Houston, 1 with OKC, 3 with Phoenix, and then 1 with Golden State and 1 with San Antonio. We got to see him play against the Warriors plenty, so seeing him in a Warriors jersey was very weird. Seeing him in a Spurs jersey was even weirder, but he made it very clear on an interview with Tony Parker that he did in December that he left Golden State because it was his first time feeling like he wasn't playing. Now, for reference, he averaged 32 minutes in Phoenix in 2023, and those dropped 6 minutes with Golden State in 2024 to 26 minutes a game, which was the lowest amount of minutes he's ever averaged in his entire career. And of course, he came off the bench for the first time in his career. So a chance to start in San Antonio, in which he started 82 games out of 82 for the first time since the 2014-15 season with our LA Clippers. The only season he's played 82 games, year 10 and year 20. I cannot believe it. What he's been able to do, and it's really frustrating. Again, classic Clipper luck. The fact that this guy's been able to stay healthier in his older age than when he was in his prime absolutely destroys me, because, I would have liked to have him at least healthy in 2016 when we were going to beat Portland. And, of course, some other instances as well, the hamstring in 2015. But, overall, compared to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, CP3 was fairly healthy. Now, credit to him for playing all 82 games, but the main reason I brought that up is because he wanted to start in San Antonio. He wanted to get those minutes. Now, he was on a 1-year contract, $10 million a year. $10 million a year, he's probably going to get even less this upcoming year because it's going to be year 21. And my inkling is that this is going to be his last season. He's 40 now. He's a smaller guard. I remember one time his wife was on an open court episode, and she said that he will not live if he doesn't win a championship. Like, he has to win. Unfortunately, I think he's not going to win, and that's partially on him. But I think he's starting to realize that he probably won't win. So what's important to him now is just playing and feeling like he's a big part of something. But what teams are going to start Chris Paul in year 21? He averaged slightly more minutes this year, 28, as opposed to 26 last year. He had a career low scoring average with 8.8 points per game. And he shot just 43% from the field, which actually wasn't his most inefficient. 2019 was his most inefficient. And he shot actually fairly well from 3 at 37%, actually 38% if you round up. So he still is a very solid player, a great pick and roll guy and all that. So he brings value somewhere. The question is, if he wants to start, where's he going? What team is going to start Chris Paul? Is he going to go back to New Orleans, have a reunion there? I'm guessing they don't want to be older. His best role is being a guy that comes off the bench, backup point guard. Is he ready to accept that, though, for 1 year? Maybe 1 year, last chance at a ring. That's the question for CP3. But I'll tell you this right now. He's probably going to sign a 1-year contract, and it'll be less than $10 million because he's not going to get more going into year 21. Now, the question is, where would he go? That's where the Clippers conversation comes up because he wouldn't cost that much. Some people have been saying James Harden needs another guy to take the ball out of his hands. Well, we've already seen that in Houston, but obviously this is a much lesser version of both players. James Harden would still be starting. CP3 would now be his backup, truthfully backup. Bogey with him. Of course, this means no more Ben Simmons, which I would much rather have CP3 than Ben Simmons, just because he's more skilled. He can actually give us shot creation, playmaking. He's still going to be good enough for 7 points, 5 assists, and a couple steals and some good energy and leadership off the bench. A real leader, a vocal leader, that takes accountability. That's one thing I loved about Chris. He embraced all of that. James Harden did a lot of that, but then the way he kind of went out, not talking to the media, just sometimes James Harden, my biggest thing with Harden is sometimes his lack of effort in certain aspects of the game set a bad tone as a leader. Whereas CP3, while not being as talented as James Harden, I never questioned his effort and his desire ever as a Clipper. That's something I could never take away from him, which made it, even though he had his flaws, his foul baiting, his ball dominance, his, wanting to be the main character so bad all the time, he was still a guy that I loved having lead this franchise. So for me, honestly, I would take Chris Paul back because it would be a cheap deal, 1 year, let him return home where he belongs, and go out into the sunset wearing a Clipper jersey. I mean, I truly think that he could help our team. Of course, that means we get rid of Ben Simmons, but we have CP3 and Bogey off the bench. But the thing, there are cons to it, of course. But I would be ecstatic just to have Chris Paul ride out into the sunset as a Clipper. And for him to come off the bench, it gives James Harden another guy that can take the ball out of his hands. It gives us a vocal leader and somebody who, would get someone like me who's kind of lost my joy for the fandom side of things. It would give me a revival of joy because it's like having Chris Paul back. I want us to win for him because he made such a difference to my life in this franchise when he came. Like those Lob City years, of course, I was already a fan before Lob City, but I remember his first game. I remember the news. I remember talking to people in school about when we got CP and seeing him become a guy that I looked up to, mimicking his moves on the court. And in my key basketball years on the court, middle school, early high school, he was my example. So, I had a poster of him in my room before it burned down. And it's just, 2 jerseys of his, he was my guy. So for me, of course I would take him back. But there are real basketball concerns with bringing Chris Paul back. So coming up, we're going to be talking about those. What are the concerns? I got to tell you a little something about DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. What's your go-to move after an epic game? I mean, I've been ordering DoorDash a lot lately. A lot. Might have to even order some tonight because I got a lot of work to do. Are you ordering wings and reliving the highlights? Imagine being rewarded with free food just because someone went off for 50. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right. So the Chris Paul situation. There's been rumors that he's not going to return to San Antonio. And the reason why is because that's according to Mark Stein on his Substack, because Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox, They've got those guard spots on lock. And then depending on who they pick with the number 2 pick in the draft, if they take Ron Harper's son, Dylan, CP3 would not be playing much, so he's going to leave. Now, the question is, Dallas, Kyrie Irving is out for a large portion of the season. That could be a very attractive place for Chris Paul. He doesn't have to move too far. He can run pick and rolls with Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and he could start a lot. So that would be a huge place. Now, there's an obvious, some people have said the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? He wants to play with LeBron. However, if Austin Reeves stays, or the Lakers don't trade him or anything like that, which I don't think they will, you're not going to need a fourth ball dominant guy like that. Because there really is only one ball. And with Luka and LeBron ball pounding like crazy, they don't need Chris Paul. So I don't think that makes as much sense. But us, I think we could really use him. I think we could use him off the bench. Ideally, let's say we get my dream of getting a power forward in, right? We trade Norman Powell. And by the way, I think that's the route it's going to be. It's either Bogey or Norm. Norm is making $20 million next year, and Bogey's making 16. They're both the same age at 32 years old, and they're both similar players in the sense that I believe on high-level teams, they're sixth men. Norman Powell is a little bit more, he can come off screens. He works quickly off the catch. Coming off curls, he can get to the rim. He's a better overall scorer than Bogey. Bogey might be a better overall player because he can handle the ball. He's a better decision maker and can kind of run pick and rolls as the ball handler, but not at a super high level. But he can also play off the ball and catch and shoot from three. He's just not as dynamic moving without the ball. So I think one of them's got to be a sixth man. And then we get a power forward, and then one of Derek Jones or Chris Dunn stays in that starting lineup to give a point of attack defender. So then we would have a bench of, let's say, Chris Paul, Bogey, probably Derek Jones, keep Chris Dunn in the starting lineup, but just not have the same leash with him next year. That would be my vote. So that power forward needs to be able to shoot from outside, though, because we already have Zoo. Chris Dunn, not a great shooter. Because then let me ask you this. Let's say you bring Chris Dunn off the bench and start Derek. Okay, Chris Dunn, Chris Paul, and Bogey. Again, that's too small. So then we're running into some problems there. And off the bench, as far as guaranteed for next season, Nico's got a player option. I wonder if he'll opt into it or try to get slightly more money. But let's just say he does opt into it. Team friendly, $4 million, $900 to $1,400 for the last year of his career. We got Nico off the bench. We need a backup five with Chris Paul, Chris Dunn, and Bogey. That's already three guys. And then you have Nico and a big. My question is, do we want to get older? Our problem is we're slow, half-court, and old, and CP3 would double down on that. And I've talked about it before. This isn't the first offseason we talked about potentially getting Chris Paul. Last season I did the same thing, or I had the same topic. Do we want to get older? Because we want to be a little bit more lively, younger. But at the same time, it's like he still can produce. He still averaged 9 points and 7 assists. You know what I mean? And he still can shoot the ball from three well. He shot 92% from the free throw line. And he does a lot of things that don't really show up in the stat sheet in terms of his IQ. You know what I'm saying? And his communication. Now, do James Harden and him have beef still? I know it didn't end in the best of ways in Houston, but I think they'd be fine. Now, I don't know that. I have no source on that. So my fear with Chris Paul is he's too old. Maybe we don't even get a true backup point guard. We just stick with Bogey. We bring Kristen off the bench. Nico, a backup big, and one more wing. It really all depends on where the Clippers want to go. I honestly am not of the bring Ben Simmons back thing. Like, he added some good elements. He gives us length and size. But if we're going to get a backup big, I'd rather have a point guard that can shoot the ball, handle the ball, be a little bit more skilled. Now, do I want it to be Chris Paul, who's 40? I don't know about that. We're already kind of old and slow. And so that's the con right there. Is he too old and slow? Is he going to help us really defensively? I think he's still got some, chops defensively, but it's not like he's going to be nearly the same player that we had once upon a time. Will he be a liability? I don't think so, but I think he'd buy into our defensive identity. It's just a matter of how much would he buy into being, he and Harden again together. Like, that's the thing. It's not just going to be he plays when Harden's out. They're going to play together, and that's the two guys that are not the best, quickest release, catch and shoot three-point guys. And they, playing off one another in 2025 with CP3 and Harden, Doesn't sound too enticing for me, or 2026. But coming up, going to look at the overall picture. I say I want him back, but is it best for the team? Is it really best for the team? Going to be talking about it coming up. All right. So talking about a CP3 reunion, I think the contract would be affordable. The second step is buy-in from CP. His son goes to Campbell Hall. He's going to finish his high school career, or not finish, continue his high school career. Does he want to be around his son more? I think that's a very enticing thing, especially when he's playing high school basketball. The thing is it best for us? Honestly, I think it comes down to what your opinion of this team is. If you seriously believe that we can be a championship team next year with a couple more pieces, then he's not one of them. He's too slow. We don't need more slow. We need to get a little bit younger, more athletic to compete with teams like the Thunder. CP3 is going to get locked up. If the Thunder are the standard, every team that wins the championship becomes the new standard. If the Thunder or the Pacers win, look, what is that telling us? Youth. We need to get younger. We need to get faster. Chris Paul is not that. So if we really want to win a championship, no. If we want to get better, get another guy that can create shots, maybe knock down some open threes, ease the load on James Harden, absolutely, I think we should get Chris Paul. It would be good. He would create some shots. He would be another reliable shot creator. He would be another reliable ball handler. Doesn't force Bogey into doing too much of what he's not great at. He's decent at. And then if James Harden gets hurt, because 79 games, that was insane. I don't see him playing 79 games or more next year because that was just amazing. But if he gets hurt, now you have CP3 that can step in there and really do a good job and would be glad to do it. So for me, it's like, I know it sounds contradictory because it's like, wait, you think that if we get him, he can help us, but it won't get us closer to a championship? Not quite. I just don't think he's the needle mover for a championship. I think he can make us marginally better. So if you're focused on making us marginally better, and I know there would be other moves in there, but again, there's just certain guys that aren't going to win rings, in my opinion, and then now putting two of them on the same team, Chris Paul and James, I just don't think it's going to happen. It already didn't happen. I don't think it would happen again. But the vibes for me would be for Clipper fans that still love Chris Paul and cherish those days and would love to see him in a Clipper uniform before it's all said and done. I think this would be awesome. So that's why I'm for it. Because I just want we don't have any homegrown players really anymore. We have Jordan Miller and Kobe Brown who are probably not going to get into the rotation. And then Zoo is not truly a homegrown guy. He was picked by the Lakers, but we've had him the longest. And then we lost Terrence Mann. So having CP3, even though he's not a homegrown guy, he built this. Intuit Dome would not have been possible without the success of Lob City showing that we can sell out a building every single night. We can be a premier, not just a destination for free agents, but a 30 to 40 times on national TV team that people are excited to watch, that people want to come see, and that when you come into the building and play the Clippers, it's not an automatic win anymore. It's you might get thumped if you're not careful. That was what CP3 did for this franchise. He gave us that seriousness. He gave us that winning attitude, because I don't think just with Blake Griffin, we end up having a 50-win juggernaut type team. I don't want to say a juggernaut, but 50-win teams year in, year out like we did with Lob City. CP3 was the ultimate, arguably the best point guard in the league at the time. In 2014-15, actually, no, Steph Curry surpassed him, but he was basically at worst like a second best point guard in the league every year he was with us. So maybe third, at the worst, every year he was with us. So for me, Chris Paul, obviously holds a special place in my heart, but if we want to bring Chris Dunn off the bench next year with Bogey, then I don't know about CP3. That's three guards that need to play. Although I don't put it past Ty Lue to do it because he loves the guard play and the small ball. And Chris Paul can guard up a little bit because he's so strong. But it's just it's not the move. If you want to look at if it's not the move if you want to look at championship rosters. If you want to look at championship rosters, I don't think having 40-year-old Chris Paul with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, who are already playing at a slow pace, is the answer. But next year, here are the contracts. Here are the people that we have confirmed coming back. Kawhi Leonard, Actually, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, Bogey, Zoo, Derek, Chris Dunn, Drew Eubanks, but the amount is not guaranteed fully. Cam Christie. We have a team option on Kobe Brown and Jordan Miller. So 9 players. We have 9 players confirmed coming back next year. So we got some decisions to make. We're under the second apron. So we have some flexibility. We have the little like taxpayer mid-level thing we can go to. So there's a lot of stuff there. But when you look at the free agents this summer, I mean, let's take a look honestly. If not Chris Paul, what free agents could we go out and get for a backup point guard role? I mean, the question is, do we want a backup point guard if we're going to bring Chris Dunn and Bogey off the bench? That's very important. Because if we bring Derek off the bench with Nico, that's a little different. Then we probably need a point guard, right? So let's just say for now, we're going to do that. We're going to do Derek Jones comes off the bench. Chris Dunn continues to start. But, James Harden, by the way, is considered a tier 1 free agent by ESPN, second behind LeBron James, who they both have player options. So that doesn't do anything for me. But let's see. Ty Jerome, unrestricted free agent. I would love Ty Jerome. He just had an insane season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Finished 3rd in 6th man of the year voting. Averaged 12.5 points per game in 20 minutes and was close to 50, 40, 90. I mean, that would be huge if we could get him. I think it would be great. Yeah, it says depending on how Harden's player option works out, the Clippers could utilize their non-tax mid-level on Jerome. I would much rather have Ty Jerome than Chris, honestly. Younger, bigger, could really use that. Then there's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He would fit into our scheme like a glove, but how much money does he want? I think defensively he's fantastic. He can be an inconsistent three-point shooter, but I would love having Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It gives us another guy that can go out there and defend. I mean, it just makes us even more lethal defensively. He shot 38% from 3 this regular season, 39 last regular season. He's improved his scoring average basically every year. Obviously, with New Orleans, he did average 13 points a game in the 2022 season, in which they finished in 8th place. But, there was a lot of guys in and out that season. It wasn't as stable as a situation as with Minnesota. So I would love Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I just don't know how much he's worth. He's probably going to want a decent chunk. Then there's CP3. He's up there as well. I've talked about him all episode long. Dennis Schroeder wouldn't be bad. I would take Dennis Schroeder. His defense is good. But again, and Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones can make the 3-ball, but he's not a great defender. Dennis Schroeder, not as good at the 3-ball, but he can defend. He can get into the paint. I would rather have Dennis Schroeder, honestly. But there's some options out there if we want to go with the backup point guard. There are some. So I think we'll end up with one of them. It's just if we want to go that route. The most glaring thing with this roster is we need to get a 4. Slide Kawhi down to the 3. Just get bigger. We need to get bigger and a little tougher. You know what I'm saying? We have perimeter toughness. We need some interior toughness besides just Zoo. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's see if we end up with Chris Paul. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.